Hello and welcome to Scrapping on the Fly. My name's Kristin and I'm here with my new series, New Year Old Stash, that I'm combining with Baby Got Scraps, which is a hop started by Kristin Crafts to get us to use up those scraps we've been hanging on to. So I have this piece of football paper, some grass, and then this blue and white stripe that kind of just felt like it would work for me. These little pieces of brown paper were in my solid scraps, and so I pulled those because they were going to work perfectly to mat my 4 3x4 pictures. I trim them down a little. And it is my kids playing football with their dad out in the front yard at my uncle's old house. And so because I had these scraps in my scrap bin, I knew I had these pictures. I figured these would work well together. So I do have some stash that I am trying to use up. Like I said, New Year Old Stash. These football stickers, I would venture to say, are anywhere from a year or so. Like this one right here is only within a couple of years old, but the rest of them could very well be from earlier in my marriage, and I was married in 2005. My husband is a huge football fan, and I still scrapbook him even though we're getting divorced because we're still friends, and he is still part of my kid's life, so he will still be involved. Plus, I'm scrapbooking 2017 when we were still married. Well, we're still officially married now, but anyway, that's not the point. So I have my one cardstock. So I got my paper, my pictures, my embellishments, and of course my scraps. So let's see how this goes. So I'm starting with a 12 by 12 craft cardstock, and these are the papers that I have to work with. Now, I have tons of scraps, but this is what I'm wanting to definitely use on this layout. As much of this grass paper as possible, and of course this one small strip of paper. Now, that could have been basketball paper up close. It's not easy to tell, but I'm almost 99% sure it is football paper. So this grass paper was a 12 by 12 strip at one point, where it comes down all the way. And so I made that work for me. Then I decided I was going to tuck this blue paper back there. So you all will probably notice I do this a lot with my scraps. I do the tearing and the tucking like this. If it's not branding strips, I'm tucking torn paper, But I love the look of these layers. It makes it look like you've got a whole lot more paper going on and a lot more layers. And I liked the distinguishing, the difference between everything with this bright white and blue. Now that striped paper came from a Paper Studio book. It's like a nautical ocean book. I just had it out yesterday. I should have looked. I created a layout yesterday with dinosaurs, and there was an off-white like woven paper that also came from this book. I have a lot of scraps from this because I try and use as much of that when I'm doing like oceanic type beach layouts because it's super thin paper. So it's really good for layering because you're not putting a ton of weight in your layout, and bulking it up in the dimensions as well as, the weight. So I like to use a lot of that. So I have a bunch of little pieces, or bigger pieces for that matter, of that paper from that paper pad. And it still looks like I've not touched that paper pad, and I've used it a lot. So I get the blue stripe down, then I decide that's what I'm going to do with this football, is I'm going to put it on either side so you can see it coming out, and the pictures are going to go down the middle. Now I haven't matted on that brown paper, scrap paper that I shared in the beginning, but it's kind of disappearing because that grass is dark. So I'm going to end up matting them on another scrap that's sitting next to me. I used this on another layout this week, I think. And it may be a layout I've already done and you haven't seen. I don't know. But it was a scrap from the beginning. And now, of course, it's even more so because I have cut something out of it. It's kind of like a off-white. And I know I have white on this layout, but I don't care. Like, I don't have an issue mixing white and off-white together, especially since my point was I wanted it to stand out. So I have my pictures going back and forth, and I decided to make this third picture a little different. So I mat it on the grass paper, and then I cut that out with a thicker border, like a 1/8 of an inch, maybe a little closer to a quarter, so that you can tell that it's got that grass, because a lot of the grass strip in the background is getting covered, and I'm okay with that. The whole point of that is just to have a little of that on there. I have more grass paper I could have laid down. I have 3 different types of grass paper. That's okay. I have an idea for using that on a layout for my daughter's track team. So I put this down here on this. This is the back of that blue stripe paper, so it's giving me the white, and I'm going to ink it so it'll stand out. But that's a really good way to use scraps if it's a single-sided paper. If you are just not going to use it, if you can use the back side as a solid, then that is still using your paper. You're not wasting, just because you don't use the pattern side. It's better than not using the paper at all and either throwing it away or giving it away or whatever. Although I'm in full support of donating paper to schools or nursing homes, places like that take those kinds of things. I'm assuming that we're getting a little bit more away from the pandemic to where people can donate stuff like that now. So I have this sticker. It says Champ. It's like an award. I don't know how long I've had that. Maybe almost 20 years. It's old. So I do add some Nouveau Deluxe. I'm not sure if you see me do that or not, but I add just a little to keep of that side that's sticking out. I don't care that you can't see that it says Champ on it. I mean, really, there was no official winner or anything of this. They were just throwing the football around. I'm pretty sure that their dad was just excited that my son was excited about doing it, because he's not the sports fanatic that his daddy wanted him to be. And while it's sad, he is totally understanding and would never force that or push that on him. We encouraged it, did camps and things like that. He just never really enjoyed it. But I mean, he likes to throw the baseball around and things like that, but anything more than that, he says no thanks. So these stickers right here are those NRN stickers that I shared. I had pretty much the entire sheet. NRN Designs. I don't know how old these are. The only thing written on here says 1938, and they are not that old. But it's called Football Fever, and so that is what I'm going to do. I am going to put this all the way down the side, and yes, the majority of that football paper gets covered. Not all of it. I do make sure that for the most part it's sticking out most everywhere, and it's not necessarily the easiest thing to read because of the way the letters are all green. But I'm okay with that because at the bottom you can see the word fever. And, I don't have a problem with the fact that it's a little hard to read and you can't necessarily tell that the title of this is Football Fever. My daughter is the football fan in our family, and she did play football for a couple of years, and her dad coached her. But when she went to middle school, she chose to to run on the track team because I think she was a little intimidated to try and actually play tackle. Now, I think she'd have done it, and I think she'd have probably kicked some boys' butts because she's a pretty tough cookie. But I think that she was tightrope walking on the side of tomboy and girly girl. I used to always say she liked to wear a skirt and play in the dirt. So I've taken all the different footballs from all those different paper studios, and I think this other one was Mary Engelbert or Engelbright. And I've just littered those down the side as well as the other little embellishments that were with it. I had a big gap up at the top, so I used one of the ones from the clear stickers from the paper studios, and I matted it on the back of that blue stripe paper, because that's another thing that I use small scraps for, is to mat the clear stickers, and then I just tucked it in up there so that it fills in that space. So, I mean, I really enjoy how busy this is. Like I said, I know that it's hard to read the title sometimes. In person, it's a little bit easier, especially if you know what you're looking for. But like I said, I don't really care because you can see the word down there says fever. It's got a football on it. There's no mistaking this is a football layout. So I have got all that stuff down, and now I am going to use my black soot and my Heidi Swap date stamp. I fixed it. I made sure to write the date from the back of the pictures down. I do have all the dates for these things written down in a book because I wrote down all the things I wanted to document for 2017 so I could keep it as close to 100 layouts as possible so that it'll fit in the number of books I need. So I took that Heidi Swap stamp and changed the date to November 5th, 2017. Stamped that down at the bottom a few times just because I like that look, especially on like a cluttered layout. This is what I have left of the scraps. I will keep the grass, throw the blue stripe away because it's a little skinny piece, or I'll set it aside to mat things with. And that is it. I did do a little sketchy line around the outside because I used that football right there from the Paper Studios, and there's a helmet at the bottom, and they kind of look like they were sketched. So it gave me the idea to kind of bring this all together and tie it together with that sketched out line. My pen was dying. I've probably had this Zig memory system pen for 5 or 10 years. I mean, I've had it a long time. So it is about time for it to give up the ghost. So I hope you will go down below and check out all the people who are participating in the Baby Got Scraps. And I hope you'll join me because I'm going to try and be here every day this month with Baby Got Scraps and New Year Old Stash. So have a fantastic day and happy scrapping.